Now, life comes at us pretty fast, doesn't it? Especially when it comes to energy reliability and prices. We've just been through a mini electricity crisis when we were told to delay using our dishwashers and other appliances so the country didn't fall into load shedding and blackouts. And that supply crisis is far from over. It'll take months and years of management and investment to overcome. Well, now the price shock. Hundreds of thousands of AGL customers will see prices go up. On average, the increase will be around 17% or $300 a year from August. That's after Origin announced price hikes from July earlier in the month. Gas prices will go up too by more than 8%. Yet this will only add to inflation and it'll increase the pressure on household budgets and, of course, small business cash flows. And you don't have to have a long memory to recall how it was all supposed to be so much better than this.
We will see those energy prices drop by $275 by 2025.
Yeah, how about that, hey? Prices have already gone up by more than Labor was going to cut them. That's their problem now and their challenge for the next 3 years at least. But their Climate and Energy Minister is more interested in the blame game.
They also knew, of course, that electricity prices were skyrocketing on their watch. But they cynically decided to leave it to the new government to announce the increase in the default market offer. They weren't just incompetent, they were dishonest about it.
Look, obviously our electricity market didn't fall into a supply crisis overnight, but it's been the push to renewables that Labor supports. It's been that push that has driven this problem. And the real worry is Labor's forward agenda from here.
I was interested to see if some bipartisanship was possible in relation to one of the biggest transformations our economy has ever been through. I would have been interested to pursue that. But if their contribution over the last month is anything to go by, they appear not to have received the memo from the Australian people issued on May 21st. And they have, by their own actions, made themselves irrelevant in this debate. And so, enough about them. To the future.
Tally-ho, off to the future, hey? The trouble is that by rejecting the coalition and promising to embrace a future energy plan without them, Bowen is effectively saying he'll do it with the Greens instead. He says Labor will write its higher emissions reduction target of 43% by 2030 into legislation, which he'll need the Greens to support. And he wants to host a global United Nations climate conference here in conjunction with Pacific nations. Incredibly, Bowen's plan is all about more transmission lines to link to more wind farms on the land and offshore, also linking in more solar farms, backed up by more battery storage. This is all an implausible mix that no nation has managed to deliver effectively yet. That's one the International Energy Agency says can't be done with existing technology. But it's also one where Bowen pretends Australia is lagging.
They say the wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't always shine, and that's true everywhere. But across our country, it's normally blowing or shining somewhere.
Really? This stuff is worrying, isn't it? At night, Mr. Bowen, you might want to consider the sun isn't shining anywhere in Australia once the sun sets in the west. And there are plenty of times when there's no wind across large parts of our continent. Or sometimes there's too much wind, of course. Let's be clear. Bowen and the Labor government are embarking on an unprecedented experiment with your energy future, one that no country has been able to deliver so far, and one that's already been started in South Australia, of course, with dire consequences, and which could create massive price and supply dilemmas across the rest of the national electricity market. Like so many in this space, Bowen sounds strangely evangelical.
Well, it's tempting to say that May 21 saw the winds of change blow through our country. But in fact, a gale blew away 9 years of climate delay, denial and dysfunction. After years of climate change policy being weaponised by Conservatives, After years of baseless fear campaigns about the cost of climate action, there was a climate election, and that election resulted in a Labor victory with an ambitious climate agenda.
A climate election? The last election was the first time in more than a decade when all sides agreed on net zero. That's the problem. Voters didn't have a sensible choice on climate policy. I've got a feeling they'll get a choice in 3 years' time. And I doubt their power bills will be $275 a year cheaper, unless maybe they're factoring in plenty of days without any power at all.